Well, good afternoon and welcome again to the latest in our series of CMD webinars. My name's Tim Fergusson and I work in the ministries team at the Baptist Union. It's great to have you with us, whether this is the first of these webinars you've watched or whether you're one of our regular participants. This is in fact the last of these CMD webinars for the moment. We launched the Continuing Ministerial Development Framework just over a year ago, and we planned this series of monthly webinars to run over this first year. So each webinar has looked at one of the many tools or groups or resources that enable us to practice well the 5 CMD habits. And the recordings of all those webinars are available on our website, our CMD page. Let me just find that. It's up on the screen there for you. So you can find all the recordings and might want to just breeze through those and think whether any are useful for you to watch. I'm thinking at the moment, by the way, that in 2022, we might run some more webinars, maybe grouping them together to follow some more general topics for learning and development. So if there are areas that you want to see covered, then do drop me a line. And the email address is, again, on the screen there if you want to let me know any ideas you have. And lastly, just before we welcome today's guests, I do want to remind you, if you haven't yet done so, to get together with a fellow minister between now and the end of November, because this is a time of year where we encourage you to hold a CMD audit to track your development progress and just think about what you might do in the next 12 months. And all the details, if you're unfamiliar with that, are in Appendix 6 of the CMD Handbook, which is once again on the CMD website page. There was also one of our webinars last month is available to watch if you want to know more about holding a CMD audit. But today I'm really pleased to be able to welcome 4 representatives from 4 of our 5 Baptist colleges. So welcome to, let me just bring them onto the screen. So welcome to Glen Marshall, co-principal at Northern Baptist College, and Simon Jones, vice principal at Spurgeon's College, Anthony Clark, senior tutor at Regent's Park College, and Rosa Hunt, co-principal of Cardiff Baptist College. Thank you so much for all coming along today.
Pleasure.
Before we kind of crack on with our topic and thinking about how the colleges might support our CMD. Just first of all, Rosa, Cardiff Baptist College, most people will know it as South Wales Baptist College. It's just changed name. I just wonder whether you just tell us a little bit about why that's the case.
Yeah, it is actually the same place as South Wales Baptist College. It's not a new college or anything. The basic problem was that in Welsh, it was called Cardiff Baptist College, Coleg y Byddwyr Caerdydd, and in English, it was called South Wales Baptist College. So we've just standardised the name, so it has the same acronym in both languages. So it's more of a linguistic thing.
Okay, but otherwise, it's service as usual at Cardiff Baptist College. That's great. Okay, well, thank you. So I've got a number of questions I'm going to ask, and I'll aim them at one of you, but do please just chip in after someone has answered first off. And first one, I think I'm going to point it to Glen. It's a big picture question, I guess. Glen, I mean, how does ongoing development or CMD, how does it differ from initial preparation for ministry from the college's perspective?
I think one of the main differences is that it's less structured and more dependent upon ministers' own initiative. Obviously, initial ministerial formation and then to a significant degree NAMS gives you a structure to work with, whereas CMD just gives you much more of a broad framework, and it's down to the individuals to find what learning they wish to do. So it puts the responsibility on their shoulders. I think all the colleges try to be responsive in what we offer at all levels, but particularly at CMD level, we're sort of responding to what it is that people are seeking and looking at. I think the other thing that I would raise that is just a little question at the back of my head about CMD, which is a good thing, is that there might be a risk, I think, that during CMD, people will look for things which are exclusively skills-based. Skills is good, but also good is thinking theologically about principles and issues which are not immediately skills-related. And so I would sort of say that if I was speaking to people doing CMD, make sure that you include something which is about your theological development alongside the development of skills for ministry. And that's one way of responding appropriately to the freedom and initiative that you've got as ministers to track your own course through learning.
Yeah, thanks, Anthony. I wonder, we've moved from the language, of course, of from training towards more formation. I guess what Glen is saying there is actually very much in that sense of ongoing formation rather than just ongoing training.
Well, I think so, absolutely. Which is why I think why you put together the 5 habits, bring those things together. It's not exclusively skills, it's not exclusively learning, but attentiveness, connection. These are things that actually are going to be formative for us. And so I think there's wanting to talk, I would want to talk about an initial process of ministerial formation that's going to last into ongoing ministerial formation throughout our ministries. I think that's an important way of trying to look at it, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and my dream would be, I think, particularly that we end up with a sense of formation right from people, interns, and might do some lay training, might do ministerial formation, and then carry on into ministry. So it's one long continuum of growth and development. Yeah,
absolutely.
I wonder if I can ask a bit of a personal question. This is a bit cheeky, but you have had warning. Rosa, I'll aim this one at you. There you are, training and helping others to be formed. What about your own development? How easy is it in your roles to attend to your own CMD?
Yeah, well, for me, it's a kind of survival thing, actually. I don't think I would actually survive doing half-time co-principal and half-time minister in a local church if I didn't cultivate particularly that habit of attentiveness. So for me, one of the key sort of sources of power and strength in my life, I suppose, is that space that I regularly make to attend to my own private prayer time and Bible reading, but also in terms of connecting. I've got a spiritual director, and just that sense of being able to share and have somebody alongside me who's helping me to pay attention to what God's doing in my life and what I could change. And so actually it's completely key, because I think it links into your initial question, Tim, where you said the difference between CMD and initial preparation. Another aspect of CMD is it's something about that long endurance in the same direction, as Eugene Peterson said, isn't it? So it's something about equipping ourselves not just to serve for the first 3 years after college, but to have a sort of sustainable pattern of ministry, and one that also involves becoming more and more transformed into the likeness of Christ, because if we can't model that, there isn't much hope for our congregations and our students. And so for me, yeah, CMD and the 5 habits you've identified are key.
Yeah. Simon, what about you? That kind of that long endurance, and difficult, I imagine, when you've got so much on your plate as overseeing training at Spurgeon.
The long endurance, which will come to an end soon, in one sense. But the long obedience might carry on. I did give this a bit of thought, and we did talk about this a couple of days ago amongst 1 or 2 staff members. One of our problems is that we're doing continuing ministerial development as higher education teachers. And so a lot of us have been kind of focused on getting our fellowship of the Higher Education Academy under our belt in order to tick the box for the Office for Students, that we're all kind of making progress as deliverers of higher education. Professionally, that was fantastically insightful for us, and it was really useful. I couldn't quite see where it fitted in any of the 5 areas of CMD particularly. It's not made me more attentive to God, although it has made me more focused on some details of things. And so I think we also have a challenge as tutors in this environment to ensure that we are still doing some of the things that ministers will be being encouraged to do. So I've got mates in ministry that I meet on a regular basis to talk and to bounce ideas off each other, but also to sharpen one another up in that iron sharpening iron sort of a way. But it's slightly less structured. I think, than CMD suggests. And I confess, because confession is good for the soul, that I have not yet registered for CMD.
You need only send me an email, Simon, and the job is done.
So, it's on my to-do list. It's about 4,000 items. But I recognize the need for it. And I've been very strong, and we might come back to this, in terms of how we link NAMS to what comes after it. And I've been talking with all our NAMS about the fact that they are now laying down habits that will sustain them through their whole ministry, and not just for the 3 years that they see as a kind of, this is the end of my training kind of thing.
Yeah,
okay.
and I think one of the things that I think most colleges, all colleges, I think, try to do is we have an eye on the fact that the people that we're equipping, we are, from the word go, equipping them to become lifelong learners.
Yeah.
There's the old joke that often crops up, usually on Facebook, of they never taught me about this in college. To which my answer is, well, duh. The prospect that we could teach you everything that you need to know about ministry is frankly laughable. So one of the most valuable things from initial ministerial formation through NAMS and on into CMD is that notion that as ministers we will be lifelong learners, lifelong disciples, lifelong theologians, lifelong professionals, and I think that's a habit that needs inculcating from the very word go.
I think that's ever more the case, isn't it, with the continually broadening understanding of ministry, which is, obviously moved away from the standard church ministry pattern into pioneering, into evangelism, into chaplaincy, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Can I jump in, Tim, just to say that I think there are challenges for us, I think, as Simon's identified within our particular roles, but I also find opportunities. So one of the opportunities is to be part of a worshiping community that's meeting more often on a Sunday. And that's not always the given for people in other kind of ministry contexts. So we're not now in a kind of place where perhaps we would have been in the past of people every day. But for example, most years we'll have a term where we set our own reading of a book together. We preach on it when we're together, and other days of the week we read the set passages when we're apart, trying to create that kind of gathered and dispersed community doing something together. And because there's a givenness to our community, we have students and tutors doing this together, and for me that's been a real benefit, and it's been a real blessing to have that kind of community to work with.
Yeah, I'd echo that.
So given that sense that it is ongoing, learning is ongoing and lifelong, I mean, Anthony, maybe I'll start with you again here. What type of ongoing relationship with ministers would the colleges ideally like? You might have different answers to this. So, you do your 3 years or whatever it may be, you do your NAMS for a further 3, and then often it comes to an end, that relationship. What would you like to see, though?
Well, I guess over the years we've done different things, and we've been trying to, partly, I guess, naturally, as colleges, we're often connecting back to those who came to us, because we've got their details, we've got their connections, and over the years we've offered a number of things, targeted towards those who are our former students, where we offer a study day or things that they may come to. I think in the light of the CMD, we're wanting to say, can we increase that and develop that, and can we make those things broader and welcome to everybody? We've begun conversations in college, I suspect others have, are there ways in which serving ministers can come back and attend, audit other things we're doing in college? Are there other things we can put on specifically? But I think we're increasingly wanting to do that. And I guess we've also done it more recently geographically. I think probably all of us have, where as a college and where we are, I've connected much more deeply with the Southern Counties and Central Baptist Associations, trying to engage an ongoing relationship with ministers here and what we can offer as a college.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else want to tackle that? What's the ideal relationship, ongoing relationship?
We, ever since Spurgeon founded Spurgeon's College, there has been a thing called College Conference. And basically every former Baptist ministerial student becomes a member of College Conference, and we gather every year for a conference. in a marquee, often on the lawn, with lots of people and tea and lots of lovely things going on. But it looks like it's a kind of annual event that has no connection with anything else. And one of the things we've been thinking about is what kind of relationship do we actually want to have with those who have studied with us, so that we maintain connection, and maybe to expand what college conference is about. So it's not just an annual event and praying for students on a regular basis in chapel, but actually it's also the opportunity to gather, the opportunity to explore issues that have arisen in ministry, not with us putting a program on, but just with ministers coming together to have a slightly structured conversation under the auspices of college conference. So we're kind of exploring that, but we're in very early stages of it.
Okay, yeah. A question has come in here. I'm going to just put it onto the screen from Mervyn Rigg. Thank you, Mervyn, for this. I assume there is a distinction between CMD and CPD, so continuing ministerial development and continuing professional development. Now, that's an interesting question, because I guess it begs the question of what's the difference between ministry and a profession. Who'd like to tackle that? Anybody like to address that question?
I think at one level it's a fairly fine distinction. So broadly speaking, they're talking about similar things, but I think it's a recognition that ministry is more than a profession. Hopefully our ministers will be professional, but there are added dimensions to what it means to be in ministry that I think take us beyond mere professional competence, even mere professional ethics. And it's all much more to do with that ongoing formational dimension that Anthony and others have spoken about already. So broadly similar, I think, but just that underlining of the fact that ministry is a vocation, which is distinguishable from being just a profession, is the way I understand it, at least.
Yeah.
I think it comes back to what Glenn said earlier about it not just being just about skills. And so CMD is also something to do with character. And as we've said, it's something to do with spirituality as well, and growth in our relationship with Christ. So, CPD plus.
Yeah.
And I mean, our strapline for CMD is sustaining our well-being and capability. So it's not just about our capability and making sure that we are safe and fresh in our learning and our practice, but also that we're looked after, that we're connecting with each other. So I think that would be perhaps the main emphasis of the ministerial bit. Anthony, moments ago you mentioned the word auditing in passing. So I mean, what I'd like to do is just look at some of the particular ways that colleges can help a CMD, and auditing modules is one of those. Now, most people I think will be unaware of the use of the word audit in this context. So what is auditing a module? Who'd like to go with that? Let's go to Glenn first of all. Glenn, could you say a bit about that? What does auditing a module look like? How might it be done?
Well, it means turning up and participating in teaching and learning around a specific topic, whether that be preaching, pastoral care, mission, chaplaincy, alongside students who are doing it as part of a formal academic programme, but without being required to do the official assessment for the programme. We have people who simply join in classes, participate in conversations, and then say, thank you very much at the end, that's been lovely. We also have people who do that and then they take the offer to submit the assignment that's set for that module, but without it going through the university processes. So they'll submit an assignment and it can be receive feedback along with the other assignments. So it's basically joining in with a class that's taking place as part of the academic programme, but without being formally connected to a qualification.
Yeah, and are all the colleges offering this as a possibility? If you wanted to look into a particular topic, I'm thinking especially where some of what is now taught was not even part of a syllabus way back when someone was in college.
Yeah, we advertise what we're doing each semester on our website and invite people to come and audit anything that takes their interest. This was much easier during the pandemic, I have to say. Because we were delivering everything on Zoom, which meant people could audit classes by turning up on Zoom. And that made it easy for some people to give a couple of hours to auditing a course, whereas if they'd had to come into college, it would have been a couple of hours of course and 4 to 6 hours of travelling in order to get into London. So we are yet to see how many people want to come and audit when we're physically back in the building. But we're also exploring the possibility of people auditing courses digitally, because we record everything. We have a full set of notes up, so people could notionally audit what we're teaching by accessing that digitally rather than physically.
Yeah. Anthony and Rosa, I think it's oh, sorry, go on, Glenn. Carry on.
I just ever so quickly. I'm amazed that more people don't take it up, actually, because I think it's a superb offer to be involved in up to the minute, high standard learning, theologically well informed at a puck academic level, but still made accessible and cheap. So kind of compared to sort of paying for a degree program, I think it's a superb value way of doing things. And I'd really would encourage ministers looking for CMD opportunities to look seriously at what possibilities are available for auditing. A number of people do it with us at Luther King Centre. We run a winter school and a summer school each year, and that's particularly popular for people auditing, where they take a study week and come and spend that with us, looking at topics there. But I'd encourage more people to take a good look at what's available on the various colleges' websites.
Anthony, Rosa, again, this happening at Cardiff and Regent's?
I guess for us, we're probably at an earlier stage of this, partly because, I mean, we do have people who audit things from time to time with us. I guess I'm also very aware that if you've got a smaller group of people working together in a more formative way through study, actually having lots of people audit actually changes the dynamic somewhat in that.
That's a problem.
So if it's something that you're listening to on Zoom, that's very clear and easy to do. I think when people are in a classroom together and you perhaps double the number of people, then that's changed dynamics. So we're having to kind of weigh up, I think, what's the best way that we can both offer our initial ministerial formation in this kind of space for people to explore, as well as draw in other people in some kind of context. So I think for us, I think, if I'm honest, it's something we're still working at and thinking about exactly how we want to make this work.
Rosa.
Yeah, I mean, we would certainly welcome people to audit our modules. At the moment, the people who are auditing we have quite a few people auditing our Baptist History and Principles modules, because for some reason they haven't done this in the past or haven't, so that's one thing. And the other thing that we have is we have a number of people who come to us who have previously done some theology degree and are coming to us just for formation, and they would regularly audit the modules that we deliver. We haven't, I don't think, not while I've been there anyway, had local ministers come in to audit, but we would absolutely welcome them with open arms if that was something they wanted to do. So
Okay, so again, very much open for business on that. I do at this point just want to say something about Bristol Baptist College. So Bristol are not represented here in this webinar simply because Wednesday is their full teaching day. They would have loved to have been here actually, and in fact it's their community week this week. So I think both staff and students, I think, are in Gloucester. Are probably trying to avoid the rain. I don't know whether it's raining where you are. It has been here. So yeah, they couldn't be here, regretfully. But I do know, for example, that they talked about a block week they've got coming up next April on chaplaincy. And that would be for their ministerial students. But they would say if other people are interested in chaplaincy, come along, take part in it and join in that learning and find out about it. So there's opportunities definitely out there. Let's just bring in a question from outside that Neil's put in. Joining auditing sounds promising. Could general emails be sent out by the colleges? Just want to say, what we'll do on the web page, that the recording of the webinar will be on at the end. Afterwards, we'll put some details of who to contact within the colleges about some of these. Rather than put it on the video, we'll have it on the web page. So we will look at that a bit later. So that's auditing. And I wonder, Rosa, perhaps I can come to you for this one. What about specific studies where somebody has a topic they want to look at. It might be sabbatical studies, it might just be something they want to look into, and they need some help in thinking through where they might read, who's out there, who are the commentators and scholars. Can they come to colleges for that too?
Yes, so what we've done is we have opened our library now, and so this is available to all local ministers. They can access our collection of print books, and that's for £5 a month or £50 a year if they want to do that. And we're working on making our ebook collection available. That's slightly more complex because of copyright issues, but we're working on it. But certainly our print collection is open, and people can book a study space for a one-off visit, or they can book a more regular slot for, say, sabbatical research. And also for sabbaticals, we have some office space available for people, and we also offer them the option of booking one or more sessions with a tutor from the college to help guide their reading and research. And of course, that doesn't have to be during a sabbatical. If a minister just wanted to pursue a particular interest, then we'd be very happy to offer that kind of focus supervision as well.
Okay, yeah. Again, the other colleges, is it similar picture where someone can get in touch and just ask for some support with some study?
Yeah, very similar. We have people who come in to use the library. So our library's been open for some time on this basis. You pay a daily rate and you can come in and use the library. Again, there are issues about electronic resources.
Yeah.
Our NAMs have access to electronic resources because they are paying for the privilege of being attached to the college. We are looking at whether that can be extended to more generally, but there are big issues. As soon as you have a certain number of readers, you begin to see an escalation in the cost of your licenses to read, and that's problematic. So we're looking at that, but generally people come in and talk to tutors about things they're interested in. They use the library. They just generally keep in touch, and often out of it, people start doing something much more structured.
Yeah, Luther King Centre, we've changed our name from Luther King House to Luther King Centre for reasons we don't need to go into, but we have a formal programme called Explorations, which costs £120 at the minute, and you get, I think it's 3 tutorials as part of that, which will help you to design a reading list, will check on your progress and help you to sum up your learning at the end. So there's a formal programme for doing that. And as per Spurgeon's and Cardiff, our library is open to the general public if they're prepared to pay an annual membership fee. There are not many people on the bus going down through Rusholme that sort of avail themselves of that, but a number of ministers do.
Yeah. And we have a very similar scheme. I think there are details on the website about it could be for sabbatical, it could be some other study. We offer tutorials and reading lists and support to help somebody explore a topic like that. Yes.
I think this is so helpful. I think that if we can get into the mindset of ministers thinking, well, the college is a resource that I can go to, and even if presumably you can't provide something yourself, you're highly likely to know who to point to and where there might be specialism elsewhere, even if it's not within the college. So yeah, that's fantastic. Now, more obviously, higher degrees. So people think, the colleges are for masters and doctorates and so on and so forth. And clearly, we're saying it is not just that, but it certainly is that. So I just wonder, Simon, perhaps. I mean, is there anything new going on out here, particularly with master's degrees or other things? What's the latest in this field?
Well, we've just, you might have seen, inherited the Masters in Digital Theology from Durham University, which has become part of Premier Radio and Spurgeon's College. So we're running the Masters in Digital Theology and have been since the spring of this year. So if you're interested in the whole digital thing, you've explored being online, using Zoom, now wanting to be hybrid or what have you, then Pete and Jonas would be very happy to explore that with you, either formally or informally, as master's students on MADT. We've also refreshed our in-service masters so that we now offer a master's in ministry that does not require the writing of a dissertation, but just the completion of the relevant number of units. And that will also include units at master's level in missional leadership, the ones that Sally Mann wrote for the family as a whole. We are adapting to offer as part of that. We will also offer that as a standalone postgraduate qualification certificate or diploma if you want to write a dissertation. So looking at a variety of areas like that.
Yeah. And Rosa, I think I'm right in saying Cardiff is thinking of doing a sort of almost a CMD specific MTH. Just tell a little bit about that. Yeah,
it is a specifically CMD MTH. So Cardiff University has a number of master's programs in other disciplines, which are CPD masters, where people come in, say, from the NHS, and they do one module a year over 7 years, then end up with a master's. So we're in discussions with Cardiff about doing exactly the same thing for the MTH. So basically it would be over 7 years, and you could do a module a year, and at the end of that you would get an MTH and be available to NAMs, but also more widely for ministers as part of their CMD.
Yeah, okay. So I quite like that idea. Again, it's moving away from the thinking that it's an intense period of study over a couple of years, but rather it's ongoing over 7 years. It's longer term engagement.
It's also worth being aware, I think, Tim, that people tend to think of postgraduate work as necessarily being a full master's degree. It's also possible to do a postgraduate certificate or a postgraduate diploma. You don't necessarily have to dive in and bite off an entire MA. There are levels of postgraduate taught degrees that you can engage in certificate, diploma as well as degree.
Am I right in thinking there's funding for master's level degrees, or is that vary according to what it is?
There is, but my understanding is you have to be able to complete the master's degree in 2 years in order to qualify for the funding.
Right, okay.
I wouldn't swear to that, but that's my understanding.
You can. That's full time. 2 years full time, 4 years part time.
Right.
You can get student loan funding for a part time masters, but it is time limited. So and it covers pretty much all the cost of doing the masters.
I mean, as with all these things, when we get into the detail, the key thing is if you're watching this, you've got queries about how to learn and how to be funded, just get in touch with your nearest college or one of the colleges, and that conversation can be had. Anthony, we've also got, I think certainly Bristol has, and I think Regent's has a number of sort of centres for studying particular areas, where there are some researchers working in that. How can that also be engaged with by some of our ministers?
So we have two. Sorry, that's our fire alarm testing. If you can hear in the background, afternoon.
As long as it's only a test.
Yeah, it is. So we have two. We have our Centre for Baptist Studies and our Centre for Religion and Culture, which both offer kind of programs that happen, lectures, everything. And at the moment is being done either online or hybrid, day seminars, lunchtime seminars. So there's a variety of programs on both issues. The current one on our religion and culture is doing a lot to do with media issues. And we have some quite significant people that are able to get to come and speak at that. The Centre for Baptist Studies, for example, is also involved in a current research project called Project Violet, which is to do with the experience of women in ministry. That's coming out of our centre. That will be feeding into other things we do in the next couple of years as well. So there are things going on that people can access, absolutely, and there'll be details on our website that you can do that. You can there'll be links there that you can sign up to mailing list to get these ongoing things that happen all the time in college.
And just to fly the flag again for Bristol, they've got I think it's a centre for they've got the Anabaptist Study Centre and also the Centre for Study of the Bible and Violence. And again, I think there's a lecture each year and various ways you can engage in that. Glenn, you're about to jump in, I think.
Yes, at Luther King Centre, there's also Centre for Theology and Justice, which we do in partnership with Christian Aid and Church Action on Poverty. That sponsors an annual lecture, the David Gudborn Lecture, and this year we've got Isabel Pirry, who is the Deputy General Secretary for the World Council of Churches, African theologian, coming to speak about solidarity and justice. And then there are sort of kind of particular modules and day seminars and things that are arranged under the umbrella of the Centre for Theology and Justice as well.
And are the centres something that you belong to or become a member of, or is it simply that you just dip into the resources they provide as you go along?
For us, you just dip in as and when you like. It's just a focus for some of our research. It's a particular area of theological and ministry concern that we want to promote. So there's no need to pay a membership or anything.
We have two centres that nobody's ever heard of. One is a centre for spirituality, but its manifestation is that we run quiet days in college that are facilitated quiet days. On the back of that, we have explored actually doing some seminars on spirituality, but we've not really found a model that works for developing that seminar program, but it's on the cards. And the other is that we're just in the throes of exploring whether we have a centre for leadership. We've got a couple of people who are working with some of our students on developing their leadership skills outside of college, so within the ministries that they're doing. And this could well grow into something that, again, would be an annual lecture or an annual gathering to explore issues of leadership that were particularly of concern for church leaders.
Yeah. Okay. So going down my list, the next thing I wanted to ask about was reading groups. Now, Rosa, I know that you've got a reading group coming up, I think. So what is a reading group again? How is it open to ministers?
Well, our reading group at the moment, so we've got a research seminar. Whenever there are 5 Tuesdays in the month, on the 5th Tuesday, the staff and some other local PhD students and so they are ministers, some of them, not all of them, get together and we spend the first hour looking at somebody's paper. And then the second hour, we work through our reading book. We're reading Contesting Catholicity by Curtis Freeman at the moment, and we discuss that. So if anybody was interested in joining either the research seminar or the reading group, then get in contact with the college and we'll see what we can do.
Okay. And those of you who are keen enough to be reading my monthly CMD news emails, hopefully will have already seen that Bristol, again, have got a couple of reading groups starting actually in November. One's looking at the book Liberating Image by Richard Middleton and Helen Painters running that and overseeing that. And Steve Finnemore, Bristol's principal, is going to be helping people walk through Tom Wright's commentary on Galatians. So again, the details of that will be on the website, on their website, Bristol Baptist College website, but also in my CMD News emails. Other colleges doing reading groups? I don't know whether that's a familiar thing.
Reading groups. We're not really doing a reading group. We have a postgraduate seminar that's open to absolutely everybody, largely because it's both live in college, but also live streamed. So people can join it from wherever. That happens every week. It's a compulsory activity for our master's students who are in college. They have to be at it. But we also have a small kind of community of interested people, research people and others who come along to that seminar. The list of topics is on our website. They're free. You can come and join in. The idea of a reading group, we've thought of from time to time that the London Baptist Association, that I must not call the London Baptist Association, it's now called London Baptists, they do have reading groups. And so I've been a bit reluctant to set up another one because ministers are already meeting together, and I've tried to join one or two of those from time to time. And I think that's probably a better way of us facilitating reading groups to encourage the ones that are already going on.
Okay. And you mentioned a seminar there. I mean, I know that some of the colleges certainly offer just seminars and lectures that you can join online, and I've been to a couple from Regents. And Anthony, I wonder whether you can say also something about the hearts and minds. What is that? I think it's a combination of colleges working on.
So hearts and minds is something that Regents Bristol and South Wales have put on in recent years. It's really an opportunity for mainly ministers and some others to come together particular opportunity for people who are doing a little bit of work themselves to offer a paper. So it's a research gathering. There's no requirement for people to be doing formal masters or doctorals, but it's a chance for people to come and listen to what others are doing and a chance to share their own work. We normally have one key speaker and then a number of other people who will offer something that they'll be doing some work on. So it's a great opportunity to share study and research, to listen to what other people are doing, maybe to be inspired a bit by what's going on.
Yeah,
and it rotates between the 3 colleges. It's a day a year. It's going to be this year
in Cardiff. On the 6th of May 2022. And Professor Nicholas Slee is going to be the keynote speaker. She's going to be talking about her book on Sabbath. Everybody's welcome. 6th of May 22.
And my appeal to the colleges here is please give all this information to me and I'll advertise it through those monthly emails. Glenn?
And there's a northern equivalent to that, Northern Baptist Theological Consultation, which happens once a year, which Sally Nelson, NBC, is hub tutor at St Hild, organises similar pattern.
Yeah.
We don't do anything because Simon Woodman and co run Theology Live out of Bloomsbury Baptist that we have been involved in. So our tutors have gone along, and that's a day of short papers and conversation and stuff going on. So we have joined that rather than thought we will start something ourselves, because that has momentum. It's independent. They get a really great cross section of people delivering stuff.
There's lots of stuff out there, isn't there?
I'm going to feel a little bit overwhelmed by the sheer amount. I was about to say, first of all, I know Anthony's got to go in a couple of minutes. So Anthony, do disappear when you need to. Don't. That's absolutely fine. Thank you for joining us if you do need to go. I just want to summarise. So we've talked about, it's on the screen here, so auditing learning modules, that's going along and just joining in the programmes the colleges are already running for a particular piece of learning. Studying specific topics in sabbatical at other times. Colleges are open for you to ring them up and perhaps arrange to see a tutor, use a library, and just look into a particular topic and get some guidance for that. Obviously, there are higher degrees, although I hear what Glenn was saying, it might be just postgraduate work, which is at certificate or diploma level, as well as a full sort of the masters. So that's something clearly you can go to the colleges for. Some of them have study centres looking at particular research areas and offering lectures and seminars on those. There are some reading groups that are taking place where you can join others looking into a particular text and explore that together. And there are sometimes a range of other seminars and lectures. So folks, if this is not enough for you, then I don't know what it is. This is looking quite comprehensive. I do want to encourage you, if you are watching, if you've got any questions you want to ask, do you have a bit of time to answer those, I hope. So do just drop them into the chat. But let me ask the obvious question, which is about money. I wonder, Glenn, can you just explain, because I think people aren't aware of how the colleges are actually funded, and therefore why not everything comes for free when it comes to involvement with the colleges?
In some ways, colleges are funded in a way that's analogous to local churches. We're kind of independent and we have to find our own way of earning a crust. I doubt any of us actually make a profit out of simply providing academic theological teaching. It's not a profit-making business, so we're dependent upon income from investments, we're dependent upon gifts from supporters, we're dependent on people dying and being nice to us in their wills. So I think it varies from college to college. We have different models. I know Regent sort of kind of works as a permanent private hall, and I've got students sort of studying there, not doing theology. We run Luther King Centre as a B&B and conference centre. We simply have to find a way of minimising our deficit, which is the reality. There is funding that comes from Baptist Union, for which we're incredibly grateful, through the bursary fund, but that is minimal part of all of our incomes, I think. Good to hear from council that might be being beefed up in the near future, which is welcome news. But yeah, so that's a broad brushstroke picture, Tim.
But of course, bursaries are for students, not for the college. So it's good income, but it's not income for the college.
So I was going to ask, if learners from less privileged backgrounds want to come to a college, is there any support for them, or would they have to look for help with funding from other places?
Yeah, I mean, in a sort of complicated way, we have an access and participation plan because of our registration with the Office for Students, which means that students coming to do an HE program from particular underrepresented groups within higher education can get bursary help, sometimes quite significant bursary help, in order for them to access a higher education program. But this only applies to accessing a higher education program.
Yeah.
Would apply for somebody who wanted to do something at an HE level, a postgraduate HE level, who had suitable experience, and therefore could be their experience could be counted as prior learning. They could also benefit from this, but it will be a very small number of people.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of the things we've spoken about, though, are either free or very cheap to access. It's really just the externally sort of validated programs which cost money.
Yeah,
and I hope people watching kind of know that we've recommended to churches that they are putting £500 aside a year in addition to paying for assembly and association ministers' conferences. So that's the type of money to be used here. And again, there hopefully will be grants in 2022, as there were in 2021, for those who are in situations where they haven't got a church to lean on, or perhaps the church is home mission funded. So again, the monthly emails will explain about grants for study. And this is the type of thing that would be great to think about using it for. Yeah, okay.
Before I go, Tim, can I just talk about one other thing? For example, we've also begun, I know others as well, which is some things very much directed towards CMD and as it's set out. So we've got another online webinar coming up on the 1st of December that will explore the habit of attentiveness, trying to tie in with Jeff Conmer's presidential year, which we'll be delivering online, again, to try and offer that to anybody that wants to. So I think it's a way, and I know others have done as well, trying to respond as colleges to the developments that we've done, to say, are there things that we can offer very particularly around the 5 habits that we've worked on together. So that's something that will be happening in December.
Yeah, and I went on the previous one, which run by Jane Day and Helen Cameron, on all 5 habits that Regent's ran. It was excellent. So I do recommend people look out for that one as well. Yeah. I guess that does lead, perhaps this might be getting on towards a final question, but are there any particular things coming up in the immediate future that you just want to sort of use this as a platform just to say about, in case people need to know about them?
3 things that I've selected out of what's a range of things. So I mentioned Isabel Piri with the David Goodborn lecture happening on November the 1st. I think I got her area wrong. It's ecumenism and social justice that she's looking at, working together as churches to promote shalom and social justice in God's world. And then on the 15th of November, we are co-sponsoring the annual Ken Leach lecture. And we've got an up-and-coming young theologian and churchman called Rowan Williams coming to speak about solidarity as a Christian virtue. And that's on the 15th of November. And then the last thing is we're just taking bookings for our winter school, which is on Christian spirituality in dialogue. So how Christian spirituality develops in dialogue with other spiritualities, always has done, is still doing so, exploring that over a 4-day winter school. So those are 3 things.
Thank you, Glenn. Simon and Rosa.
We have John Goldingay doing a postgraduate seminar in January next year that we're very looking forward to. He's talking about how we read the book of Joshua, which is an interesting title. He's always good value. Most of our postgraduate seminars have got some really quite interesting people doing things. We're also, Tim will know this, but we're also in the throes of exploring, developing our current Equip to Minister program and launching a whole range of new units and modules to go with that, some of which will be very amenable for CMD. So we're doing one with the Baptist Deliverance Group. We're doing one on digital theology. So if you don't want to do a master's in digital theology, you might want to do some thinking about digital theology at a slightly less academic level. We're looking at things like youth ministry, urban ministry, and a range of other things that people might think, oh, I could dip into that for a day. That would be quite useful. There's gaps in my knowledge about this area, or I'd just like to explore this with other people. So those things will be coming along in 2022.
Just worth explaining for those that don't know, equipped to minister is kind of the lay training, I think the Spurgeons are running. So more sort of level 3, sort of A level kind of pitch. So an introduction to a topic. Yeah. Rosa.
Yeah, and we run these what we call CMD squared days. So they are CMD, but they're also creative ministry days. And they are a joint venture between the college, the Baptist Union Wales and South Wales Baptist Association. And they're open to local ministers and to NAMs. So it's part of the NAMs training program, but it's open to everybody. Some of them are deep learning days where we get authors to speak on a book, and some of them are sort of practical sessions, like we had one on the visions of colour, racial justice training recently. But the next one that's coming up is on Monday the 8th of November in the college, and Mark Ord is coming to speak about hospitality as mission. So yes, people will be very welcome to that. And Tim, shall I say, is this too late for your next news, or shall I email
No, it will go out next week. I'll make sure it's in there. Yeah.
And can I just say as well that we do offer things through the medium of Welsh if people were particularly, wanted to do a study session or project through the medium of Welsh. We do have tutors who can supervise that, so that would be possible.
I think my only danger here is that I could spend all my time going to these various lectures and seminars. Just to again chip in for Bristol, I already mentioned the chaplaincy day week they have coming up in April next year. Just one thing I forgot to mention in passing, when we were talking about the one-to-one work that can be done between a learner and a tutor, and again they certainly offer that. They call it bespoke reflective practice, which I rather like the name. So that's an accompaniment for 3 or 4 reflective sessions throughout a year, identifying themes and for particular study and books and so on, as the other colleges are offering as well. So I think we should pause there. It's just been an immense wealth of resources that are possible, I think, through the colleges, and hopefully people watching this will realise that, and we'll keep bigging it up, that colleges can be a port of call for people's development, maybe a first port of call rather than a last port of call, as they look into various topics. So can I say massive thanks to Rosa and Simon and Glen, and to Anthony, albeit he's just disappeared early for another seminar, I think. And before you go, Glen, I wonder whether you just pray for us as mutual learners on the journey of development together.
Yeah, let's pray together. So, loving God, we thank you for the privilege and the excitement of discovery. We thank you for those who down through the years have contributed to our own learning and opened our eyes to the wonder that is you and your world. And we thank you for the prospect of all the learning that lies ahead of us. We pray for one another as Baptist ministers in covenant together to serve our churches as they in turn serve the mission of God. Would you enable us, empower us, equip us, and excite us of all that we have yet to learn? Open us to your spirit and blow us along the road that we might discover great things in you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Amen. Well, again, thank you, Glen, Rosa, and Simon. I'll see you in just a moment, but I'm just going to take you off the screen for a moment. And just leaves me to say, just a reminder, as what I said at the beginning, that this is the last of these CMD webinars for the moment. We may start a new series in 2022, so do look out in the monthly CMD news emails for details of that. Thank you so much if you're watching, and particularly those who have been supporting these throughout, and I hope they've been useful to you. Do pass on the details of them to others who may likewise find them helpful. So from me, it just leaves me to say a goodbye and God bless.